What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to a Monday edition of House Divided. I'm Jeff Ketchum. The pointer over there is Chad Hastings. You can follow us on Twitter. You can see it at GKCatch, at CHastingsOBL. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your time on a Monday. We hope to inform and entertain and laugh and cut up. And we got some buy or sell questions. I got one today that involves switching bodies with another human being. It's going to be crazy. Like, comment, subscribe to the page. Blake May hooking them from Tennessee. Glad to see you, Blake. As I mentioned, like, subscribe. We're creeping up towards 20,000 subscribers. I bet we get there soon as football season gets ready to kick off. Help us do that. We absolutely appreciate all of it. It helps the channel. The bottom line, like we ask, not because we desperately covet, but it helps the channel. And that we do covet. Everybody jump into the Specs chat. You see the little rabbit at the corner of the screen. We love Specs, our partnership with Specs. They are the sponsor of the chat. Jump into the chat. Give us your chats. Give us your super chats, because we love money more than we even love subscribers and notifications. We do. We like it. So we love super chats. We bump those up to the front of the line. And that's kind of how we do things here on House Divided. Mr. Hastings, good weekend, I hope.
It was a pretty good weekend. Yeah, back from Dallas, and we did a show on Friday, and then just kind of hung out over the weekend. And it was good. I'm trying to think if there's the biggest thing I saw this weekend was the documentary on the world's strongest man. Shout out to Mark Henry. It debuted last night. 2-hour doc on A&E. They did a fantastic job.
You got a doc on A&E?
He got a doc on A&E, man. They've been doing these WWE documentaries. He got a 2-hour doc, which I was hoping for, because the 1-hour docs are pretty good, but when you're a badass, you get a 2-hour documentary. They gave Mark the 2-hour version, and catch, if people can get all the way to the end, they'll see the back of my head twice, and they'll hear me introduce Mark at the event last May. So somehow,
the back of your head went prime time?
Back of my head was on A&E like twice, and then you hear me. You don't see me, but you hear me introduce Mark at the event. So there you go.
Hey, my wife has brought Mrs. Ketch.
Famous, Chad. You're famous.
See? There you go. Now you got to really
from the rafters.
Yeah, you have to really know it's me or have me tell you it's me. But it does happen. But
you know what that reminds me of, Chad? If you watch the Ricky Williams touchdown run against A&M that breaks the record back in 1998,
right?
If you watch that video long enough, you can see my calves, both of them, my legs are in the video. If you pause it at just the right spot, you'll go, who would be wearing shorts in late November at a game, and those calves, those are my calves. So I know what it's like to inadvertently have like a weird body part in something that is historic.
I've always heard that Major Applewhite says you had better calves than Ricky did that day. So I've just heard that rumor.
DJ Williams, the past Miami Hurricanes great linebacker, former Denver Bronco, longtime NFL player, he once on a beach in Maui fell down to the ground and put his hands around my calves.
Wow.
He thought they were the most impressive calves he'd ever seen in his life. And so very weirdly, at the time, a high school boy was like copping a feel on my legs.
That is incredible. Incredible. So yes, no, it's okay. If you are into a good documentary, especially if you're a pro wrestling fan, go check out the Mark Henry and all the other good documentaries. But if you don't know Mark's story, it's incredible. And again, they go through full 2 hours. I am honored to call him a friend, and it was so cool to see the story. Was it best? See, Cody, there's no Cody, there's no need to do that. We're just Money B. What's up, Money B? What's up, Money B? And somebody else says, I was at the 98 game. In Catch's defense, it was not that cold. Chad, you're right. I was at that game too, and it wasn't one of those cold. It wasn't one of those bitter November days.
I still would have been wearing shorts, though, if it was a cold, bitter November day.
There's one thing we can count on a cold, cold day, no matter how cold it is, Jeff Ketchum's still going to be wearing shorts, and our man Bo Edge from The Outsiders will still be wearing the Birkenstock sandals because he just wears them all the time. So it doesn't matter if it's 30 degrees outside.
No, Morgan, no, we're not. I promise you that's not what's taking place.
Famous body part day.
All I'm saying is that 20-something years ago, former NFL linebacker DJ Williams, when he was 17 years old, was infatuated with my calves. That's it.
That's it. That's the only thing.
But honestly, Chad's head is so big, it's more famous than my calves.
And let me tell you, of all the angles of my skull you could have put on A&E Catch, they got the absolute worst one. Like, it's awful. It's
okay.
The worst version possible.
All right, let's move along because we're doing that thing. We're doing a radio thing where it's like we got a 3-hour show, so we just got to talk and fill time, but we're not doing that today. We're talking Quinn Ewers today, Chad.
Yes.
Because I think this is actually a really critical conversation piece for the 2024 Longhorns. Last week during SEC Media Days, and look, I'm admitting I have been part of the problem that I'm about to speak of. But there's this conversation that constantly takes place about Quinn Ewers. And it's like, he's got to be more vocal. He's got to be more of an alpha male. He's got to go out there and be this thing, this image of an NFL quarterback, right? You got to be Tom Brady. When you're on the sidelines, you got to yell and scream. And oh, by the way, that's how Troy Aikman did it too. We all have these ideas and images of what quarterback leadership looks like, right? And I've bought into that. And I think it's one of the things that we've talked about with Quinn Ewers since he arrived. And Quinn is constantly talking about it himself. I need to be more vocal. I need to be more of an out front leader. So we go to media days last week, and this is planted in all of this seed has been planted for years. It's like one of the last things that Quinn Ewers has to work on is he's got to be an alpha male leader. He's got to be a man that people want to follow. And you just start thinking about all these things. And in reality, I found myself last week thinking about Quinn and comparing him to the other SEC quarterbacks that were on hand. So on Wednesday, Jalen Milroe does his meeting with the media. And look, I'm not going to lie. I came away from the Jalen Milroe media session, and I was like, I love that guy. I love that guy. I want to go play with that guy, football. I want to be on his team. So much charisma. The smile, like every element of Jalen Milroe as a human being, as a football player, as a person on the stage at SEC Media Days, I thought was incredibly powerful. Like I was won over by that guy. And when his media session ended, I remember, I think I told you, I was like, okay, Quinn, let's see you be Jalen Milroe.
Well,
Let's see you top what he just did.
And that's how we set up that show that day, Catch. When we did our Wednesday show at SEC Media Days, Quinn had not spoken yet. So we kind of set it up as okay, Quinn, here it is. We see not only Milroe, but some of the quarterbacks that preceded Milroe were also really impressive. Cook from Missouri, Dart from Ole Miss. There were multiple Beck was incredible. So they all did a really good job of presenting themselves, and it was effortless to some of them of how they were dealing with the media. So you and I just started to ask, like, okay, let's see what it looks like when number 3 gets up there and he's got to project the same thing. That's kind of how we set up Wednesday's show.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Then Quinn Ewers got in front of the media. That's not who he is. He is, and it took Wednesday and then a couple of days to really think about this. Quinn Ewers is a different guy. He's naturally very unassuming. I think one of the worst things that happened to Quinn is that the year he shows up in Austin was the year of the mullet. And you had people wearing mullets to the games, and it made him like a personality. This thing was his personality, and it's not.
Yeah, because he ain't Ricky. He didn't have same, right. He didn't have the same like bubbly type of personality, kid-like personality that Ricky brought to go with that hair.
And so I think we all misinterpreted who Quinn Ewers was when he arrived, because the real sense was that the mullet and this big personality was who he was. And in reality, that's not who he is. Matter of fact, as soon as the mullet, now this is season number 2 without the mullet. It's funny to think that that was ever a thing, because it's so not who he is as a person, a guy that, hey, look at my hair. I'm going to be I want to be the center of attention because of my hair. And that's just not who he is. And on Wednesday, he meets with the media, and it's like unassuming guy, speaks quietly. I think he has a self-awareness of this conversation. So he's trying. Somebody had mentioned that there was a Longhorn Network television crew or something like that was out filming practice one day. So that was the day they had Quinn Ewers break down the team, because the program was trying to show off Quinn and this idea that he's growing in his leadership. It was all kind of staged. And I finally have just reached this point with Quinn Ewers. And I think it's really important, if at all possible, that Steve Sarkisian and his coaches get comfortable with this as well. Quinn's just going to do it a different way. And I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know that Texas is going to win an SEC championship or a national championship, or will experience glory on the football field with a low-key quarterback at the helm. But I think it's time to let Quinn Ewers just be himself. It feels like for the better part of the last 3 years, everybody's been trying to make Quinn force this square peg into a round hole. Why? Because it's kind of the conventional thought we have about what quarterbacks are supposed to do and look like. But I don't think that's who Quinn is. And I don't know that it's right or wrong in either way. I really don't. What I know is I think Texas will get the best version out of Quinn Ewers if they just let Quinn be himself. And if you're Texas, the good news is Steve Sarkisian told us last week he thinks he's got 25 leaders on this football team. So maybe you don't need Quinn Ewers to be a shouter. Maybe you don't need Quinn Ewers to be the guy that's gathering everybody up in the huddle and leading the team in, 1, 2, 3 Texas or whatever. Maybe all of these things that Quinn, I think himself, feels like there's an obligation. I've got to be this guy. No, what Texas needs is for Quinn Ewers to be good on the football field. They need him to be more accurate. They need him to throw the deep ball well. They need him to just, in general, play better. This other stuff, I am tired of pushing that narrative. I'm as guilty as anybody. Quinn's got to be this. Quinn's got to be that. He's not going to be the number 1 overall draft pick in the NFL draft unless he can do this. Okay. We can't worry about what the NFL thinks right now. Like, that's a separate discussion of what NFL teams are going to want from their quarterbacks. It might be different than what I'm talking about. They may say, nope, we got to have the loud vocal leader, and that's the only guy that we want. Can't worry about that. When I think about this 2024 season, let Quinn be Quinn and start creating these suggestions that he's got to be something else, because I think it's a distraction. I watched Quinn Ewers pretty closely on Wednesday. And all you need is like 20, 25 minutes of watching that guy interact with the media to realize he's just wired a little bit differently. He's wired different than Jalen Milroe. And the thing he doesn't need are guys like me saying he's got to be more like Jalen Milroe. Because in reality, he was better than Jalen Milroe was when they played on the field a year ago. Like, Quinn Ewers pretty good it very much made me think of the movie Bridget Jones's Diary, when Bridget Jones is talking about all of the things that she's not as a woman. And she ends up hearing back from Colin Firth, I like you just the way you are. And I came away on Wednesday with a few days to really think about it. I like Quinn Ewers as he is right now. He seems like a nice young man. He's soft-spoken. He believes in his faith considerably. There's a lot of aspects to him that aren't loud, that aren't upfront alpha male. But he's a pretty damn good football player who's won a lot of games, had a lot of success being the version of himself that's most natural. And as he goes into the most important college football season of his life, because as he answered back to me on the very final question at Media Day on Wednesday, he does feel like this is his last season at Texas. This does feel like his farewell. Let's let that guy do it the best way that he can, which is just to let him be him. And I hope as we get to August, these conversations are still going to exist. Quinn's going to continue to get peppered with what have you done this offseason to become a better leader? And are you more vocal? And he's going to tell everybody how hard he's trying to do all of those things. I think we all need to make a pact together. Let's just let that young man be him. And that might just be good enough in college football in 2024 to have a pretty monster season that we'll all look back on and say was one of the best in school history.
We already have some good chats that are piling up. If you want to get us a super chat, it will go right to the front of the list. We'll get to some of those chats and continue the conversation on Quinn Ewers today. So if you want to jump in, we appreciate it. Remember to like and subscribe and get your notifications. First catch, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about Rogue Shop, one of our great partners around here, can help people in all kinds of ways.
Well, look, I'm going to put it up on the screen. Chad, can you notice something about that? It's almost empty. I'm almost out of Rogue. So later today, probably, I mean, why the hell not? I'm going to go to rogueshop.com. You can scan that QR code, but I'm more of a type it into the address and go. Topicals. They got, by the way, you got to do the age verification. Yes, I am older than 21. They still have the Rogue sample packs, which give you a little bit of everything. They have the new THC flower. By the way, they have autographed THC flower, which I think is fantastic. You can get DeRose autographed THC. If you got stress, anxiety, pain, they got products for everything. The thing that you got to do, they got stuff for focus. It's opposite of what you think. The bottom line is go to the website, check it out. They got the totally baked out brownie kit. Just add egg and water. There's a little bit of everything. And if you have any questions at all, Shar will pop up at the bottom of the screen in the chat, and she will let you know, I am an owner. How may I be of service? It is a one-stop shop for all your needs. They're an amazing supporter of orangebloods.com and Orange Bloods Live. We cannot stress their product and the fact that they're good people running a good business enough. Get it done. Scan that QR code. Go to the website today. But by all means, rogue it up, because I'm on the site right now, and I may be done ordering, Chad, in the next 5 minutes. Like, I need some refills. Why waste time? It may be is let's get it done and get it done now.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were talking about after the show. You are one of the most multitasking humans I've ever been around. So I know you're going to have like 3 orders done in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that you will. I know that is what you're going to have. All right, we do have our first.
Where you can see my eyes clearly not focused on Chad, but I'm nodding, I'm listening, but I'm definitely multitasking.
All right, we have our first super chat that'll jump right to the top here. Catch it comes from Bryson 499. He says Quinn is more Kyler Murray than Baker Mayfield without being an a-hole.
I don't know how you can. If you take the a-hole out of Kyler Murray, you do not have Kyler Murray.
I was going to say, what is that? That's a weird shell of a Kyler Murray if you take the a-hole quality out.
I mean, if you say Quinn is a more modest version of Kyler Murray, it doesn't compute.
Yeah, I get where you're headed there, Bryson. I get kind of what you're saying, but I don't know if that's the exact comparison that I would make. But
I don't know. The thing is, I start running my head through great quarterbacks in Texas history, right? So just in this century, Major was super vocal and was out there out front as a leader. Chris Sims somehow existed as the center of the UT football universe very comfortably. He was the Pied Piper. You know, they would bring recruits in, and Chris Sims's job was to entertain and sell the program and be Chris Sims. And he always succeeded at that very well, even if I think Major was a better on-the-field leader. They're all a little bit different. Vince Young was Vince Young. I mean, in 25 years from now, when we're really removed from his greatness as a player, his leadership will turn into this Paul Bunyan type thing. Colt McCoy, really comfortable. All these guys slightly different, but they all, I think, Chad, more naturally fall into the what we think leadership from the quarterback position looks like. Quinn's really soft-spoken. And as a human being, I kind of like how understated and kind of calm and quiet that he is. Like, he's my kind of people. Like you hang out with Quinn Ewers for a little bit, and it's like, you know what? If I hang out with Quinn, he's not going to say too much. He's not going to be a jerk. You know, he's going to tick a lot of boxes that make him, I think, a good hang. But the boxes that you check might not necessarily be the thing that NFL general managers look at when they think about what their ideal quarterback prospect looks like. Quinn, from a personality profile standpoint, is different than the guys that I think we've covered in major college football at the top. And I don't know how it's going to work out fully and completely. Is Quinn Ewers ever going to prove to everybody that he absolutely should have been the number one overall prospect in college football's recruiting back in 2021? Is he ever going to be that guy? Because, oh, by the way, Caleb Williams was in that class, and he just went number one overall and won a Heisman. Like, I don't know. He may never quite be able to do that. Is he, when the NFL comes calling on Quinn, are they going to ding him for these things that we've been talking about for the last few years? Maybe. I can't control what NFL scouts are going to think about him, because they'll start talking about it. They most likely will fall right back into this conversation about what maybe he's not versus what he is. But Quinn Ewers is his own guy. And on some level, we got to stop making this guy something that he's not naturally. We got to let him be him. And then we got to find out if that's okay. Maybe he's the first of a new age kind of quarterback. You never know. Whatever it is, he'll be new for Texas Longhorn quarterbacks. And I offer no indictment of right or wrong, guilty or not guilty. I just know what I think is natural for him. And it feels like we'd all be best letting him just be the natural version of himself, as opposed to him constantly thinking he's got to try to be something else.
All right, I was going to get to a regular chat, but Bryson sent us another super chat. Bryson, thank you so much. $4.99. How about Justin Herbert as a comp? Just meant that Kyler was more of a quiet leader. So
No, I knew, Bryson, we knew what you meant.
Yeah.
It's just that Kyler is such a dick that it's hard for me to not think about that single. It's like it's impossible to ignore.
Yeah, so that's why I maybe throw another name into the discussion. Justin Herbert. He was a little more of that quiet leader, I guess. Yeah, a little more subdued, if you will. Bryson, thank you so much for those super chats. If you want to throw one in, we will get right to them, just like we did for Bryson's. One of our favorite chatters, Vivek, jumped in earlier with this one, Catch. I read your OB piece, but being a quarterback means being the tip of the spear, a leader. Even if you're not super outspoken, you gotta lead.
Yeah, but you know what? Being a good leader means you can't, to me, be a great leader if you don't play really, really well. And I think at the forefront of what everybody really wants to see from Quinn Ewers is that he plays well. If we see Quinn Ewers play his best brand of football, I swear to God, in connection with that, we'll say he's a better leader.
Oh, yeah.
If he goes out and balls out, Chad, and has a 190 quarterback rating this year, we'll inherently say, man, he figured out that leadership stuff. Look how many games they won.
Well, one of the worst things I think you can have, Catch, on a football team or really any sports team is when you have someone that runs their mouth a lot and feels like they want to be a vocal leader, but then you look at the results and you go, why is he talking so much? Why is she talking so much? Why are they trying to lead? Because they're not. There's no example, right? There's nothing on the field. There's nothing on the court that would lead us to that. You don't want that part of it. So I agree with what Vivek is saying. Yes, you got to lead. It's all about how he does it. Here's the comment I've heard lately, Catch, from Sark that I think I'd get pumped about if I'm a Texas fan. He has told us in the last couple of weeks, and I believe it was one of at maybe that select media event that Anwar got to check out in Dallas. He said Quinn Ewers walks into the building like the starting quarterback at Texas on a top 5 team. That's what he has told us. He tells us that Quinn is carrying himself that way. And from what we saw last week, I can buy that. You can talk about, was that an A- performance or was it an A? I wouldn't give him necessarily an A+, but he was who he was. I didn't think he was fake at all. And that's the guy. That's who you've got. And Sark says he is the leader of a top 5 team, and that's how he carries himself. I'd dig that if I was a fan.
I just don't. And that may very well be true. Look, when Quinn walked in with a cowboy hat on and a belt buckle, the look of Quinn Ewers looks and sounds different than the actions of Quinn Ewers. So when he walks into Dallas last week, he's got the right cowboy hat on. By the way, I continue to tip my cap to Quinn for wearing a non-felt hat. You got to know your seasons. If Quinn had walked in with a felt hat on, I'd have been like, oh, what a poser. Come on. He knew.
I love that of all the things you were last week, cowboy hat police was one of the main things you were.
It's July in Texas. Let me just tell you, that's me hanging out at Dallas nightclub for half a decade or more, 100 times a year.
That's the only reason. Like if you don't say Jalen Milroe was an A+, that's why you'd say it. You'd be like, well, he walked up in that black felt cowboy.
He was in all black, so you can. The thing is, you can wear a felt hat, a black felt hat in the summer for a wedding. You can get away with it at a wedding, although
funeral
is the biggest. You can wear a black hat at a funeral, or you can get away like at a major event. You know what I mean? If it's a big social, you could kind of get away with it. And I think media days was that a little bit, but in general, you just got to know, man, what time of the year it is and when you can wear hats, a certain kind of hat, and when you can't. And I love that Quinn showed up knowing the rules.
He did.
Everybody else had a black cowboy hat on. And he was like, no, man, it's July in Texas. I'm a good old boy who hunts and fishes, and I know the rules.
Yeah, Quinn and the center from Tennessee really seemed to understand the cowboy hat game because he also was rocking a good straw hat. Mays, I think Mays is the last name. Brad throws us another super chat. Thank you, Brad. $1.99. Quinn during and after Alabama. That's what we want. Exactly.
But all that is predicated on his play.
Exactly. And he got to have that. And you remember the bravado after the game. I didn't think he was overly cocky. I didn't think he was overly showy, but he got to have that attitude of like, how about that? How about that? What, how about that? I don't
think that Quinn never comes out of his shell. I would make the case that during football games is when he's actually able to just stop thinking about these things. And some of this stuff will just come out. We've seen him be a little fiery on the field. We've seen him run around and jump into his teammates' arms and be exuberant. It's really everything around that. It's our eyeballs are on him while, he's doing pregame or dealing with the team or, we're constantly talking about, what's his leadership look like this year? Is he being more vocal? And, well, I feel like I watched that young guy on Wednesday and it was like, okay. And to be fair, it was like my first time to really spend 25, 30 minutes in person, just listening to Quinn talk and to watching Quinn interact. And I watched his mannerisms. He was a little twitchy at times and, at times a little restless, kind of just being in the center, whereas Jalen Milroe was almost bubbly and like he had like exuberance popping out of his eyeballs and making contact and was loose in a way that I don't know if Quinn, with all of the mics and cameras in front of him, I don't know if he could ever be that loose.
Right. And to be fair, Catch, it was at least, you tell me if you agree, there were at least 10 to 15 more people, cameras, and everything around Quinn than any of these other guys we're talking about.
No doubt. It was the player interview that media days across the board at SEC Media Days had been waiting for. So much so that you and I have talked about this when we left the Omni Hotel on Wednesday and we're going out the door. Man, there were media trucks everywhere that were getting the hell out of Dodge and going home. As I was waiting for the Uber, there were 4 TV trucks that were all loading up and leaving to go home. And, they all stayed through Texas. They all stayed through Quinn Ewers. They all came for that. And, the thing is, Quinn's very charming in his own way. He owns the soft spokenness. He can be funny, but he does so in a way that's just different. And I really think the thing that was, and I think when we get to the NFL draft next year, this could potentially be the thing that we see the draft discourse. We're going to see NFL people examine Quinn Ewers' personality and say, is he a guy to lead an NFL football team? Is he a guy that can be the number 1 overall pick in the draft? And I think there will be some people that want something out of him that's just not natural. And, I feel like I've covered a lot of good quarterbacks at this school. He's not Sam Ehlinger.
No.
I think that may be, and I wrote about it this weekend, about 10 thoughts from the weekend. Like, Sam Ehlinger was Tom Herman's version of an alpha quarterback leader that Herman had dreamed his entire life of coaching. By God, Sam Ehlinger was it. But you know what? Quinn Ewers is better than Sam Ehlinger. He just is.
Yeah.
And
And there were differences. I mean, you think about Sam, there was a certain humility to Sam. It's not like Sam was some complete, alpha
No, he's
male
almost
breakfast
perfect.
guy.
From
He had a great mix of all those things, the story and the emotional stuff with his dad, and all those things that he was able to put together. It was a hell of a package.
He's perfect from an intangible standpoint. It's even the thing that NFL scouts will talk about now. It's like, well, he's perfect in these areas that we can't even quantify, but he's not as talented or is not as physically impressive and doesn't have all of the tools. Quinn Ewers is a better football player than Sam Ehlinger. He has the Big 12 championship ring, the Big 12 Undertaker championship MVP belt, and a spot in the playoffs to prove it. And he will get drafted ahead of where Sam Ehlinger got drafted. He'll start games in the NFL. Where he goes from there, impossible to know at this point. But while he doesn't have all it, and I think following Sam Ehlinger in a lot of ways is part of what has made Texas fans want this a little more out of Quinn, because there are still Texas fans who are like, I stand with Sam. Sam's my guy. That's who I want as a leader. I want my kids to be like Sam. I want to be like Sam. I want my daughter to marry somebody like Sam. But Quinn Ewers is a better football player. And he's not a better or worse person than Sam. He's just different. He's just wired different. Mm-hmm. All of that stuff that Sam found really natural, Quinn is not quite as natural at that stuff. But if you just let Quinn be Quinn, the performances on the field speak for themselves. And we're talking about a guy that goes into this season as the player with the second best odds to win the Heisman Trophy. If we ever could just let him be him.
Me? Him? It's a hell of a freeze. It's a hell of a freeze. Is that catch freezing or me? Can we identify the freeze? That's him, right? That's him. I don't see an issue on my end. I don't see an issue. Is it him? Google Scholar. We see your $4.99 super chat. We're gonna have that in buy or sell a little bit later, assuming we get whatever's figured out here. Is everybody else just seeing the same thing I am? Hang on, let me see. Catch is frozen. Yes, there it is. Catch is going to kick out and try to get back in. So thank you for that super chat. We'll get to it with buy or sell. Also, Cody Carpentier earlier in the show. Speaking of comparisons, Chad, have you ever been compared to the cash cab guy? No, but I'll take that. That's a handsome, talented man driving around New York asking questions. I'll take that one. Thank you, Cody Carpentier. All right, we got some other good chats I wanted to get to on this, but we'll wait for Ketch there on this Quinn Ewers discussion. Also, while we're waiting for Ketch to jump back in, let's thank another one of our great partners, and that is AV Consultations, 255-8678. Remember that number. Put it in your brain. You're 40 days from kick. If you've waited this long, I can't promise they're going to get you ready for game one, but I can promise they'll get you ready for the bulk of the season. AV Consultations, they've been doing this since 1988. 255-8678. They love to talk to you about everything they have. avconsultations.com. You get to see some of those pictures that will flash up on that recorded spot that will play. Tom and his crew, the absolute best of the best at what they do. Let them handle every detail. Let them buy the TV, get all the speakers and the cords and all that stuff for you. AV Consultations. Thanks to them and all of our great partners here at Orange Bloods Live. Thank you for getting us, for supporting us, liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. Chad wants to know if there'll be an Outsiders this week. Yes, Chad, 8:30 on Wednesday night. We will have an Outsiders. We just had so much content coming out of Dallas last week. We just decided to let that be the thing and give the Outsiders a week off. So this Wednesday, we'll be back at 8:30 with an Outsiders show. So thank you for your chats coming in on Quinn Ewers. The one thing I was going to say about Quinn, to me, it's about one word. It's not about action with Quinn Ewers, because I think we've seen the action, right? You go to Tuscaloosa and you win by 10 and you close the door like that. It just, that has to build a ton of confidence. With me, if I'm a Texas fan, all I need, and this is where expectations are different than what we were just talking about with a Major or a Sam Ellinger. Neither one of those guys ever got as close as what Quinn Ewers has been to all of it, to like the big, the top of the mountain. To me, with Quinn, it's not about action. It's about reaction at certain spots. Every once in a while, the reaction for him can be a little tough. He is soft-spoken. So those soft-spoken folks, when they get pressed, when stuff happens to them, well, they're not naturally going to become loud. They're soft-spoken people. So they are going to react kind of along their personality type. But what we've seen is that with the quarterback position, you got to have some reaction. They need to see you react somehow. So that's what I think the coaches mean. When we keep hearing this stuff and we hear great reporting from Anwar, Jason Ketch, all the guys at Orange Bloods, when they say they want them to be, they want him to be more of a vocal leader. I don't think they're talking about breaking it down before a game. Man, they've got guys that can do that. They got all kinds of energy guys that can do that. I think they're talking about adversity. I think they're talking about the moment they need when everybody's going to look. Who are you going to look to? The guy you snap the ball to. That's just natural in football. And that's where I think he needs it. Because over the years, there have been quarterbacks that the rest of the time are loud and braggadocious. But when things go wrong, they go into a shell. Those guys bug me too. I'd almost rather it be like Quinn. Let's have him be mild-mannered to start with. Then if I'm looking for him to react to something, it's not that big of a contrast. One of my least favorite guys for reactions over the years was Cam Newton. If everything was going well, Cam was just a big, braggadocious monster of a quarterback. And then things would go wrong and he would mope and he would pout and he wouldn't deal with anything. I'm a Cowboys fan. Romo could be that way. Romo would go into a shell sometimes and you're like, whoa, Nine, where are you, man? They need you to react somehow. That to me is the only little tweak that's the tweak for Quinn right there. All right, hang on. Here we go. Get a couple of chats in as we are waiting for Catch. Hopefully there's still not internet stuff going on in the Woodlands. I should probably grab my phone and see if I'm getting some sort of message from Catch now that it's been a couple minutes here. Good grief. Hopefully everybody's doing all right. If you're in the Woodlands like Catch, hope you're hope everything is hooked up right and ready to go. Let me see if I got anything from Catch to let me know what might be going on, because he just froze and then he was gone. I don't see anything. Okay. But we will hope he comes back quickly. We're getting some good chats in. We also have a super chat. It's a buy or sell super chat that involves Tony Braxton and Anita Baker. So stay tuned for that one. I can't do anything better from that. All right, let's see. Here we go. Vivek throws in and says, Chad, how do you feel about your O-line? I'm assuming O-lineman talking all that mess about playing Texas. Geez, we have to be full throttle for that game. A&M takes it personal. Vivek, I'm not exactly sure about the comment that you're making. I'm assuming you're talking about Trey Zune and made a comment at media days. Yes, the end of what you just typed is absolutely true. Do you need to be full throttle? Yes. Does A&M take it? Yes, absolutely. And that game and Arkansas being 3 weeks apart in a 3-week span, you're going to play both of those emotional games. And they are going to hate you in a way that you might not be fully prepared for. So you got to figure out a way to go in there and shut that all down early. Calm those crowds down early. Early score, early lead. Never more important than in those two ball games. Yes, pay attention to that as we get ready for that one. All right. How about Paul throwing in $9.99? Thank you, Paul. The word for me with Quinn is consistency. Too many times during a game, he gets in ruts. Can be the start of a game, Washington, OU, or second half, TCU. Be consistent throughout. Paul, I think that's a great point. Whether you're loud, quiet, you cuss, you don't cuss, you reference, you reference your faith and the Bible, or you don't. If you're not consistent, it's not going to matter. And that is a good word to look for. We have seen those moments of inconsistency. Also, I think Ketch and I, like last year during the watch-alongs or during the season, we also talked about sometimes the play calling I thought didn't help Quinn out, help his confidence along as it's going in there. But yes, how he reacts to those things is big. Not to have one or two bad throws become 5 or 6 bad throws, because all those environments crank up now. Everything cranks up to a totally different level when you're talking about not only SEC, but you're going to the big house in game 2. So consistency, definitely a big deal. I get what you're saying. Yeah, that early throw against OU, not great. The start against Washington. We can all say what we want about that Washington game. The fact that Texas got an opportunity to win that game, you can argue it never should have happened. If you're a Washington fan watching that game, you're like, how in the world is my team allowing this to happen? The idea that Texas would get 4 shots from the 12 was ludicrous if you're watching a certain part of that second half. They should have had that game under control. They let Texas have the opportunity, and Texas couldn't figure it out. And frankly, those play calls didn't feel super confident. It didn't feel like, okay, let's hand Quinn the knife and see if he can stab Washington in the heart with this thing and get it to overtime by 37-31. No, go win the game, I guess, at that point and finish it. It just didn't feel like that. Paul, thank you for that super chat. There's Mr. Ketchum. I see him. All right. Ketch, we still got issues in the Woodlands. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, if it missed, apparently the internet goes out. So man, it went out last night because it missed it. It rained a little bit. And we're still in like post-Burl hurricane. It's frustrating.
Okay.
And I need to tell you, I'm on my personal hotspot on my phone right now. It has like 1 bar.
Oof.
Old one. I'm here.
All right.
And we made it work a week ago on the hotspot. But then the very next day I had to go from the hotspot and I dropped like 6 times. So I don't know. We'll go for as long as we can go.
There you go. We will see how it works. We've had chats coming in. We got a nice $9.99 super chat while you were getting hooked up again. Let me put this back up, Ketch, and get your comment on it. This is from Paul. Again, thank you for that $9.99. The word for me is consistency. Too many times during a game, he gets in ruts. Can be the start of a game, Washington, Oklahoma, or second half against TCU. Be consistent throughout. More than anything, Ketch, is that really what we need to see out of Quinn instead of the leadership discussion?
Oh, 1,000%, because we're talking about his actual play on the field. And so far through the first 2 seasons as a starter at Texas, he's not been a great quarterback. It's not what he's been. Last year, he became a very good quarterback who – against Alabama, and I think in the Big 12 championship game, was great. I think in all of the other games, he ranged between pretty good to very good. And he was actually pretty consistently, week in and week out, pretty good. Maybe even up to very good. But rarely was he great. And I think Paul talks about it, right? The consistencies. The one half he's very good, the next half he's not. Well, those are the things that players who aren't great do. There's ebb and flows. And I think the best thing that you would say about Quinn from a year ago is that the awful performances went out the window. And
yes,
one of the things that plagued Sam Ehlinger in his career was that you never knew when it was going to happen, but 1 or 2 times a season, he'd just have a stinker, a sub 100 college rating stinker. And it's like, you don't give your teams a chance. And quite frankly, this was the thing that plagued Major Applewhite during his career as well. It's like, it's not about the best version of him. It's how many times do you get the best version of him? And when you're not getting the best version, what is that next level? And is it ever disastrous? Quinn went through pretty much all of last season without disaster, the kind of disaster football that we'd seen in Stillwater the year before that. So the thing is, Quinn took steps forward from 2022 to 2023.
Mm-hmm.
If Quinn takes more steps from 2023 to 2024, Texas is going to have a hell of a football player on its hands. But that we said that about Sam every year he was at Texas. It's like, oh, Sam was like a 153 quarterback passer rating guy as a sophomore. If he can just take a step, and then the next year it'd be 154. I was like, well, no, like 0.5 of a season rating, that's not a step. And he never could quite get beyond kind of the level that he was. He's kind of the same guy as a senior that he was as a sophomore. What everybody's counting on with Quinn this season is that he becomes great, that he's legitimately a Heisman finalist level player. And if that happens, Texas almost certainly will be in the top 2 or 3 of the SEC. I mean, I tend to think that if he's a Heisman finalist, he'll be in the SEC championship game. Suddenly everything about the playoffs becomes part of that discussion. And great quarterback play is the tide that lifts all boats in this sport. The last time Texas played for a national championship, it's because it had quarterback play that largely carried it at times. And I'm not talking about Vince Young. I'm talking about Colt McCoy in 2008, who that's the greatest single passing season of any quarterback in school history. I think if Texas wants to be in that conversation this season, making it back to the playoffs, Quinn being in the Heisman discussion in November and not in August, and then making a run into the playoffs, it's going to need Quinn to probably put together a season that surpasses Colt McCoy's. At least it matches it. But, Colt didn't completely close the deal in 2008. They needed he needed to be a little bit better in Lubbock that night than he was. Mm-hmm. And it's little things like that kept him from ultimately winning the Heisman, playing in the national championship game, getting to the finish line. I think we know what the bar has to be for Quinn if this team's going to accomplish all of the things that everybody wants it to accomplish. And it begins with consistency. Week in and week out, he's got to be a great player, and that's not yet happened.
All right. Here's another super chat. $10 from Buck Wild. What's up, Buck Wild? Stay safe out on those roads. One of our truck drivers out there. So I guess Cam Williams opted out of EA 25. Super pissed. Because my right tackle was Chapman, got destroyed against Michigan, sacked 8 times. Quinn was definitely limping after the game. Who should I start? Wow, here's where we are, huh? This is where we are on July the 22nd.
I mean, at that point, Brandon Baker, you might just have to live with the 5-star true freshman at right tackle in EA 25. Buck Wild, on behalf of Jaden Chapman, apologies.
That's fantastic.
By the way, that is the one thing, NFL players get it in fantasy football where if they have a bad performance, somebody will hit them up in their Twitter mentions like, you cost my fantasy team and blah, 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 blah. It's funny that for college students, it's all about back to being the college football game. I was in dynasty mode, and Chapman caused Ewers to get sacked 8 times against Michigan. Blah!
Thank you, Buck Wild, for that. That is fantastic. All right, let's see. What else? What else did somebody throw in today?
Jaden Chapman catching a stray, and then Buck Wild didn't even spell his last name correctly, which makes me think if you're going to catch a stray, that's the best way to catch a stray.
We got a
last name slightly wrong.
Just a little bit wrong. Yeah. Gabe threw us this earlier. Says, like Max said with VY, we just quit bothering him. The rest is history. Catch, I'm just wondering if, because you talked about, you accepted part of the sort of responsibility here. You're saying you've been one of those wanting sort of a change in Quinn, though. But
No doubt.
wouldn't you agree that so far, like, where would you think the coaches are on this now? If Sark is now saying this dude is walking in like the starting quarterback of a top 5 team, would that maybe tell us that they are now comfortable with who Quinn is? And okay,
I don't believe that.
Okay,
I think they still want, because when Anwar and I talked to our sourcing behind the scenes, there's still very much we need more from Quinn. They're openly yearning for a little bit more. And, there was a story last week about the cameras catching Quinn lead the football team during the spring, and that part of that was, let's get it on camera. There's still, if they were completely comfortable, you're not necessarily, I don't want to say faking it, but you're not going out of your way to try to show it when it's not quite that. So I think part of what Sark said last week was a little bit lip service. I mean, what if he had said the opposite? Quinn's going to be coming in here today, but, we're still wanting more out of him in this. He's going to walk in here and he's going to look the part. But, man, we're still looking for him to act and speak the part. Like, he's never going to say that. And I think behind the scenes, there's still this, we can get a little bit more out of him if he can just be a little more vocal and a little more. And look, the key is that Quinn's still talking about it. That Quinn is saying, yeah, no, I think I've made improvements, but I'm still trying. It's one of the things that I'm working on. If it wasn't a thing, then Quinn's not saying that. But that Quinn, and look, full credit to Quinn, it's hard to be self-aware, man. It's hard. I was at an event last night, an engagement party, and there was a guy there who just speaks really, really loudly. Now, in part, he's kind of deaf, but he just naturally speaks loudly, kind of everywhere he goes. I think it's because he's deaf and he can't hear himself, but it's hard for him to be like, oh, I'm probably being loud. Like, everybody in every shape, form of life, self-awareness. I mean, I'm 48 years old, and there are times I'm not self-aware enough. So for Quinn Ewers to be 21, 22 years old and self-aware of what he knows people want him to be, what he naturally is, and kind of the steps that he's taking to get there. I mean, that's heavy stuff. That's the kind of thing that, you can go to therapy every day, or a couple times a week, or 3 or 4 times a month. And that's a hard place to get to, where you are conscious of the areas of improvement or areas that you want to work on at all times. It's like, oh, and you can get in your head. And that's kind of the thing that I worry about Quinn, is that in an important moment, that's the thing going on in his head. I need to do this. I need to be vocal like this. And I think it goes back to the super chat that we had. No, Quinn, what the team needs from you more than anything, more consistently great play. Because I'm telling you, if you get that, we make up the leadership stuff at times. We will. Because to the victor go the spoils. When you don't win, you get nitpicked. But when you win at the highest levels, people will make up the most glowing stuff possible to say about you. So if Quinn can be a little bit more accurate, if he can be a little bit steadier, if he, and turnovers weren't really a big part of his play last season, but you think about the Oklahoma game, right? If he goes into Oklahoma this year and starts that game better and doesn't turn the ball over. And for the record, I didn't think those picks were all on him. I still think Adonai Mitchell should have fought for the ball early in that game more than he did, where he cut off that route. When you win, man, to the victor go the spoils. And if Texas is playing in the Final Four or in the SEC championship game and he's a Heisman finalist, nothing about his leadership probably has to change. We will say it did because we'll look at the end results, and a lot of times we just can't say, well, he played better. He was a better player. We'll romanticize it. We'll add rhetoric to it that may or may not be part of the storyline. When you win, you get credit for just all sorts of things. And when you don't, like, people nitpick you. And I think that that's kind of where we were with Quinn Ewers. He's not yet been great, but he's been good enough to get this team to a national semifinal. Yeah. Pretty good. Pretty good. Say what you want to. He's been able to get this team to a conference championship and to a conference semifinal or to a national semifinal. And he's been able to do that without being great yet. And it says a lot about the talent that was on last year's team, but it also speaks to the talent that he'll be working with this season. He doesn't have – Sark said they've got 25 leaders. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, let those other 24 guys, if Quinn's one of the 25, let the other 24 focus on getting everybody in and out of like pre and post practice team breaks. Let Quinn focus on being the best, most consistent playing version of himself, and the rest of that stuff will kind of take care of itself.
Not a bad idea. By the way, we mentioned it. We got a super chat in earlier that will be a part of Buy or Sell. We're going to hit Buy or Sell right here in just a second. Before we do that, let's hear from Specs. It is the Specs chat there for you every day. If you need to get stocked up, here you go.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Catch, when you go to a store and you get a weird enough combination of stuff that the person checking you out can't help but notice? That's what happened to me at Specs. I got such a weird combination of drinks that the dude just had to recognize, like, my God, look at all this stuff. I walked out of there with a bottle of peanut butter and jelly whiskey. I didn't know there was such a thing, but I am all about finding weird stuff here and there. And it's called Blind Squirrel, and it's actually not bad. Kind of dig it.
Kind of reminds me of when we were at Terry Black's on Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
I had that big plate of barbecue.
Yeah.
And there was literally a woman that walked over to us and was like, I want to be with you guys. I want to sit with him. I'm with him, is what one of the ladies said at the thing. Yeah. And there was a part of me that was like, I've never had a woman who looked at a tray of barbecue and was like, I'm with that guy.
Yeah, they did put together a nice plate of barbecue for us. That was impressive.
You did that at Specs. You did the equivalent of 9 pounds of meat at Specs.
Yeah, he looked around. He was like, he looked at a peanut butter and jelly whiskey and some IPAs and then a Mexican lager. And he just looks up at me like, wow.
You ever get that Jay Novacek whiskey yet?
No, they did not have the Jay. I still haven't tried the Jay Novacek whiskey. I got to do that. Okay, I like the Troy Aikman beer. I have not tried the Novacek whiskey. I need to try.
How about Aikman and Lamar Jackson having a number 8 beef that's going to court?
Oh my God, I didn't hear about that. What do you mean a beef?
Like Troy Aikman's been trying to copyright number 8 as part of. He's got a bunch of products and so Lamar Jackson is fighting for him. Is like contesting this, and so 8 versus 8 in court. And Troy, hold on, let me pull it up. Because Troy actually, you know how I know that Troy actually wrote the tweet? Is that it was grammatically incorrect. And it was like, okay, that is something that a former NFL football player who might have CTE someday would say in a tweet versus like a spokesperson. He wrote, hey, Lamar, looks like a worthy conversation over a couple of 8 beers. Maybe Steve Young can arbitrate, because the headline on ESPN was Jackson disputes Aikman's trademark bid for number 8.
Weird.
Yes.
Okay. So that is going on. Also, since you mentioned Lamar Jackson, the part that
He says, looks like a worthy conversation over a couple cold. So he doesn't say a couple of cold. He says a couple cold.
Yeah.
8 beers. That doesn't even make sense.
Couple cold. Well, because his beer is called 8.
Oh, so he's saying a couple in
Cold
parentheses of cold.
Yes.
8 is the type of beer.
Correct.
Oh.
Aikman, the beer that Aikman's involved with is called 8. It's
Now
literally
it makes sense.
There you go.
I
There
thought
it is.
he was saying we need to drink 8 beers, but a couple. Okay. Have you ever had an 8 beer?
Yes, I just told you I really like the beer. I need to try the Novacek whiskey. I have the beer. I just finished off a 6-pack of 8 beer. It's pretty good. Yeah.
By the way, in his Twitter profile, never settle, 90 calories, 100% organic grains, 2.6 carbs.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anybody's looking for a nice light beer and you're a Cowboys supporter and you love Troy, give it a shot. It's good light beer.
I mean, we all should support Troy. I don't even drink beer, but I should go buy some Sixers and have them in the fridge to support Troy.
Yeah. What I'm confused about is Lamar Jackson's head coach and what got into his brain. Did you catch that over the weekend?
No.
The hell is John Harbaugh doing? He stood in front of the media catch, and you want to talk about be careful when you're emphatic? He was just trying to fight back against this thing of people saying Lamar Jackson still needs to take a step and still needs to develop. And he's like, he's a 2-time MVP. I can't believe you'd say that. But catch, at the end of it, he said that when it's all said and done, Lamar Jackson is going to be known as the greatest quarterback that ever played in the NFL's history. Like it's like there was no reason to do it. But he basically said, Lamar Jackson's going to end up being the GOAT above all the rest, no doubt about it. So I don't know why y'all are doing this. And it's like, wow, coach, no pressure on 8.
There's a guy named Mahomes who's pretty good, who may not ever get to that level, but he's the one knocking on it the most at this point. By the way, did you see the video of Xavier Worthy and Patrick Mahomes?
Yes, I did.
I cannot believe the rest of the NFL let that happen.
Yeah, I blame the Buffalo Bills first, but it's really the whole league. I mean, that's a 30. What was he? 31st, 30th, whatever,
Yes.
32nd, whatever the pick is. I guess if you win the Super Bowl, you're 32nd. So yeah.
Andy Reid has him running every single rep with the ones. They won't let Worthy out of first team, whether Mahomes is running with that group or not. Worthy's taking every rep because that dude is going to be ready to be a major contributor on that team come hell or high water. They are going to get him ready in training camp. And yeah, you can already put together like an and one mixtape of Mahomes throwing the ball deep to Worthy, and they don't seem to have any chemistry issues.
No, they don't. I'd play. Yeah, if you're not playing him in fantasy, you're out of your mind. That's going to be absolutely crazy to watch this year. All right, Catch. Are you ready for a little buy or sell here?
Yeah, because I have no idea how much longer we have before I drop. So
Exactly.
yeah, let's do some buy or sell. I'm going to let you go first.
All right, I will go first, and we'll have our guest buy or sell at the end. We have a guest buy or sell that involves Anita Baker and Sade, so we'll get to that at the end. But first, Catch, buy or sell number 1. Texas will be 6-0 going into the Georgia game.
Sell.
Okay. Michigan or Oklahoma gets them?
I think so. I
Okay.
don't mean to piss in everybody's Cheerios, but it just feels like, I don't know. I'm not ready to say that this team is going to be perfect other than the game it plays against Georgia, which I think most Texas fans feel like that's a coin flip game. I don't know. Like I feel like Texas is going to lose somewhere along the lines, and I'm not taking that Ann Arbor game for granted. That defense from Michigan is going to be a mother, and I don't know that Texas offense in week 2 is going to be anywhere close to the offense that it might be in week 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I don't know that Quinn will know who his go-to guys are yet. Like, I'm not taking anything for granted in that initial week 2 game on the road.
That is fair. By the way, if those two teams are undefeated, Texas and Georgia, they'll earn it. Georgia plays Bama before they play Texas as well. So there's a lot to do before you get to that game. All right, Catch, buy or sell number 2 on August 7th. Khalil Lockett will pick Texas.
Buy. Yeah. That's where my head is right now. It would be great for Texas recruiting. One of the things I've said, and I wrote about it in my 10 Thoughts on a Weekend last night, is Texas doesn't need to panic at wide receiver. No matter what happens this season, they're going to lose 2 at worst. They'll lose Silas Bolden, who will go off to the NFL. He's out of eligibility. If they have a big year, Isaiah Bond might go pro. But everybody else has to come back unless they enter the transfer portal. So Texas will have 8. I think of the 7 guys that Sark name-checked at SEC Media Days, 5 will be coming back next year. So they don't really need volume. They need specifically great talent. Khalil Lockett qualifies. Jamie French qualifies. But beyond that, or flipping to Corian Moore or another 5-star level talent, I'd wait until the portal. And I'd just go get next year's Isaiah Bond and throw that guy into the mix with Khalil Lockett and the 5 guys coming back. And Texas will have the wide receiver unit that Arch Manning can thrive with. I promise you that.
All right, Cats, let's get to our Cowboys. Buy or sell number 3. Ezekiel Elliott averaged 3.5 a carry last year. His career average is 4.3. This season, he'll have 3.8 or better.
First of all, how dare you? 3.8 as a bar is so atrocious.
I was going to go 4, but it felt almost too unattainable.
It is, and it's a sell. These things rarely go back up.
Yeah.
They have a habit of like going down and down. And typically before it gets to 3.5, guys get run out of the league.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, man, we're running trash at running back. Let's just be honest.
And for number 4, Catch, I'm just going to give you the test that I failed earlier. Buy or sell number 4. You can name the OC and DC for the Cowboys.
Well, the OC is Mike McCarthy.
That's not true. He's the head coach.
He's the play caller.
He's play calling, but who is the offensive coordinator?
I mean, it's like calling Kyle Flood the offensive coordinator for the Longhorns.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So you don't need that one. Can you tell me who the DC is?
Well,
because I forgot this. I forgot that this happened.
Look, what we know is it Zimmer?
Very good. Well done, Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer is the answer to the question. Technically, Brian Schottenheimer is the answer to the first question, but you're right.
I would not have guessed Schottenheimer if you'd given me 10 guesses.
But McCarthy will call plays. We do know that. McCarthy's calling plays, so I think you're right to say Mike McCarthy technically. So we'll let you have that.
How old is Mike Zimmer?
Mike Zimmer, I don't know. Good question.
I just typed in his name. He's 68.
I was about to say, I was going to say 70-ish was my guess. 65, 70, yeah.
Thing is, I love Mike Zimmer.
I do too.
But
I hope at this point I just don't love the idea of Mike Zimmer, because I love the idea of Mike Zimmer. I just hope it's more than that. I hope it's still.
Mike Zimmer is 2 years older than my mom. And I don't want my mom being the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys.
I kind of do. But that's just me.
You want Alice?
I kind of want Alice Ketchum to call some cover 3, cover 2. And yeah, I really do.
That makes one of us.
Yeah. Finally, Catch, let's go to some pro wrestling because it's Shawn Michaels' birthday today. He's 59. He's not on your Mount Rushmore.
I think that's a buy. Look, every time we do a wrestling Mount Rushmore, Shawn Michaels is on the bubble for the 4th spot.
Okay.
And I think more times than not, I go away from Michaels. But there have been times when I think even the last time I did a wrestling Mount Rushmore a week ago, and I might have snuck him into 4, but I am constantly, is it Taker? You know, I'm like juggling guys. I'll sometimes think to myself, should a guy like Hart? I feel like we had. Look, kids, Big Ben, Parliament. I feel like I have this discussion with you once every couple of weeks where we talk about the wrestling Mount Rushmore, and I go through about 5 names that I ultimately am considering for that spot.
It is something I think people should consider on a weekly to bi-weekly basis is their wrestling Mount Rushmore. So that's why we revisit. Happy birthday to San Antonio.
I said Harley Race's name recently.
You did.
On the show.
I know you did. You absolutely did. Happy birthday to San Antonio's own Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, with a birthday today. All right, Catch. Before we get to your buy or sell, let's throw in our guest super chat buy or sell. It came in earlier from Google Scholar, $4.99, Prime on Prime, buy or sell. You'd rather see Anita Baker perform Sweet Love than you would want to see Sade perform Smooth Operator, and you'd rather see that more than you want to see Tony Braxton do Unbreak My Heart.
That's a sell.
I'd sell it as well.
Just in general, I would love to see Sade do a show. She doesn't do a lot of shows.
Right. I would sell and put Sade ahead of everything.
Sade is, to catch a show of hers would be the opposite of George Strait. Yeah, George had like 1,500 goodbye shows, and he even did one in College State. He's got 1 million retirement shows, but he's still doing shows. And look, God bless George Strait. I hope he keeps doing shows. But like Sade doing a show, and look, Smooth Operator would be my at-bat song. So I'm a big Sade fan. I would love to see Sade in concert. In part, I feel if I was single, and there were a room full of a certain type of women, maybe non-Caucasian women, and I walked up to that table and I was like, have you ever seen Sade in person? I have. I feel like I would be in at the table. I don't know that. I feel like if I was at a table full of older women than me, Anita Baker might work. Look, Tony Braxton is the hottest of the 3, and if it was just about seeing the hottest woman, let's go check out the woman that broke up the Dallas Mavericks in the 90s.
That's fair. Yeah, that is absolutely.
She claims that's an unfair tag to put on her. I can't help it that the Mavericks players wanted to fight over who got to talk to her.
That's Google Scholar, thank you for that $4.99. That is an excellent buy or sell. We always love a good buy or sell, especially if you put it in a super chat. It will definitely go to the top of the line then. All right, Catch, what do you got?
Buy or sell number 1, and I haven't written these out yet because my connection and just it's excuse making.
Yeah,
you know what? Okay. I'll tell you what. I'm going to go with the only question that I actually was able to type into the system.
Okay.
Buy or sell number 1. If you could switch places with either of these 2 guys for a day, you'd rather be a young Glenn Powell than however old Matthew McConaughey is today. Like, it's a 2024 discussion. You have to be one of these guys today.
With all due respect to the star of Twisters, I've got to sell that one. I'll take whatever Matthew's day is right now. It's got to be memorable. It's got to be interesting.
You can't go out and be a whore.
I understand that. I think
Glenn's whoring around.
In terms of just everything that is involved, I'll sell. I'll sell and lean towards McConaughey. But I think we might be going to see Glenn Powell in Twisters. I think we may go see that movie. He's a Longhorn as well, right?
Oh, yeah, it's true. It was a Longhorn versus Longhorn battle. So Glenn Powell did an interview with CBS Mornings in June of this, so last month. Mm-hmm. Confirmed he's single and not entirely chasing love at the moment. Do you know what that means?
Damn.
He's out sleeping with everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna still sell and go with Matthew because I don't think I could handle that, Catch. I don't think I could handle jumping in the body of Glenn Powell.
His body.
I don't know if I could handle it.
No blue pills needed. He's still young enough that he's making it happen. Buy or sell number 2.
Yeah.
You can correctly pronounce the winner's name of this year's British Open.
I can correctly pronounce the by its Xander Schauffele.
Very good. I've struggled personally with that name a little bit,
Yeah,
which
what a
leads to my buy or
performance.
sell number 3. Buy or sell, Xander Schauffele
Schauffele.
stole the 2024 golf season away from Scotty Scheffler. You got 7 wins and a major, but Schauffele just won his second major. He's golf's player of the year.
It's always an interesting discussion when it happens like this. There's a good argument on both sides of that. There's still some stuff left. So right now I'm going to sell. They've still got FedEx Cup and they've still got the Olympics and he's the defending Olympic champion as well. If Schauffele goes to Paris and wins that thing again, and then I think he's still got a little ways to go before he takes the whole year from Scotty, because Scotty's got like 6 or 7 wins. So I'll sell right now. But what a year Schauffele's put together. Catch, he just went from the best guy never to win a major in some people's mind to he's got 2 already. And it just feels like it happened in a blink. That was incredible.
I'm with you. I think he's stolen the year. Because I think in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the only thing that people will remember is the majors. And 2's greater than 1. And in 20 years from now, if you're like, yeah, but he won 7 tour tournaments. How many majors did he win? I think that's how history remembers these things.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
I can't tell you how many tour victories Tiger Woods ever had in any one season. But I can tell you he had a Tiger Slam.
That's fair. Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. It may be. I mean, maybe that may have made it at least close. If not, maybe he did pass him up. By the way, I'm still seeing the McConaughey one. Did you take it down on your side?
Oh, yeah.
You did. Okay.
There, I tried to take it down again. Are we good?
There we go. Okay.
Absolutely.
We're good now. Thank you.
Buy or sell number 4. You watched a little of the WNBA All-Star game on Saturday night, and you liked it.
Yeah, buy. My wife and I checked that out, and WNBA team went crazy. The Dallas Wings own Ogunbowale goes nuts in the second half with a big performance.
That was so crazy.
It was entertaining, and I agreed with your comment from your 10 thoughts from the weekend. It was as or more entertaining than I cannot recall the last time the NBA All-Star game held my attention in the same way. I also like the fact that it was the Olympic team against an all-star team. That kind of had a good vibe to it as well. I was entertained, and they packed that joint, catch 16,000 plus. Good for the WNBA right now, man. They are riding a high.
I enjoyed the hell out of that WNBA All-Star game, and I'm not afraid to say it. And finally, I'm going to test the boundaries of how much red-blooded American men love Sydney Sweeney.
Okay.
Because we're doing Glenn Powell leading ladies.
All right.
Glenn Powell is in the new movie Twisters, which I didn't see this weekend, but I'll go out and see it before it's all said and done. Number 1 movie of the weekend. His co-star in that movie is Daisy Edgar Jones. Are you familiar with the Brit?
I'm not. I'm going to have to look her up. Daisy Edgar Jones?
Daisy Edgar Jones. She's a brunette. She's very
all right, I see her. Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Buy or sell. You would rather have, this is a game of would rather than. You'd rather have one night with Sydney Sweeney instead of 3 nights with Daisy Edgar Jones.
Wow, you really are testing things out. If you're going to have if that's going to be the discussion, then I would
more always best.
Not always, but in this case, I'll sell and play the math. I'm not that into Sydney Sweeney that I would go with 1/3. You could have picked somebody else that I would have gone 1/3, but I'll go with the 3 in this case because I sat all the way through Madam Web, and she's sexy, but she wasn't quite that sexy.
I like Daisy Edgar Jones won me over because her and Glenn Powell did a versus wing challenge. Yeah. She's got a lot of personality.
Okay.
I think in 3 nights That's enough of a runway that maybe you could make her fall in love with you
Man,
over
look at this.
wings. I'm telling you.
We had 3 immediate buys come in on the Sydney. The Sydney Sweeney fan club is out there. They're ready to go. Cotton, our man Cody Carpentier, they're all ready to go.
Those urgent buy, as if the first person that answered got the night with Sydney Sweeney.
What is it? Salty Q saying Aggie gonna Aggie. That's an Aggie move. 3 nights with a beautiful actress. What are we talking about?
Hey, so can I tell you, since Salty brought up the Aggies, I did my top 10 list this week. Did you see that? I did Bill Paxton.
I did, yes.
And his performance as Chet in Weird Science is, I think, one of everybody's favorite performances.
It is.
Somebody on Orange Bloods said that Chet in Weird Science is the best Aggie performance in the history of movies. That character most closely identified with being an Aggie versus any other character in movies. And it made me think that next week's top 10 list, top 10 Aggies in movies, where they're not really Aggies, but they're kind of really Aggies.
But the performance is something that makes you think of an Aggie? Is that what you're saying?
Chet in Weird Science is as Aggie as it gets.
How dare you? And B, Chet, that performance should have been much higher on your list. I could not believe that it didn't make the top 5. Even though Bill,
a performance list. It was the greatest movies that he's ever been in list.
Right. That's true. You did go out of your way to bring that up. And he has been in some movies that are big time. And
his resume of movies is incredible.
He does have an incredible list. That is absolutely true. But Chet is still always going to be my favorite.
He have a big part in the Terminator, but he's still in the freaking Terminator.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I'd totally forgotten that he was in that movie. Chet is always the one for me. I love the fact that he refused to speak of Chet for years.
No.
Like he just stopped talking about it. You couldn't ask him about it.
When people would bring it up,
he would storm off and everything. It's like, wow, okay, there you go.
It's a shame because it's a performance that has stood the test of time.
Yeah, and the True Lies performance is incredible as well. It is a great
performance. I think that's my favorite Bill Paxton performance in any movie.
It is so good. That's such a great. I can still remember going to see that movie, summer blockbuster at the theater. I got to see it for free. Those are always special to me. I won some little contest thing and I got to go see it for free. Oh my God. It was perfect. That movie was so perfectly timed.
Although he drops a line in that movie that I've never completely understand when he says, she's got the ass of a 10-year-old boy. What? What did you just say? What? My kid is 10. What does that mean? Hendrix is 10. I don't know what that even means.
The making you beg for buttermilk was a weird one too. I always thought that was a strange. He added it right on the end. It was so bizarre. So bizarre. All right. Thank you for that super chat that added in. Let's see. No more super chats right now. If you want to throw us one, we will get it in there. Also, real quick, let me hit you with a little sinus and snoring specialist, one of our great partners around here. They're the ones that help me sleep every night. Literally, my wife and I are both sleeping great. My wife's got the CPAP going on. I've got the sleep device that I wear every night, a dental device that was made for me. That was at the end of the process for me, but I had one of the balloon sinuplasty procedures done. They got rid of my allergies for good. They can do that for you as well. It is not cookie cutter stuff. They're going to have a different path for everybody. They can talk to you about Inspire, this new product you may have heard about in the last few years. They've got that as an option, and they have surgical and non-surgical options that other places do not have. So check them out. You'll meet Dr. Slaughter in the first consultation. And thank you for those of you that have mentioned Orange Bloods Live. Tell them that you heard about it there and get that process started. Get to sleeping better and feeling better. It may be the most important thing in your life that maybe you're not thinking about it right now, but you need to be resting better. They can make sure you do it. Sinus and snoring specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. All right, we roll through on a Monday. We're talking Quinn Ewers today. Catch, as you were thinking about this Quinn Ewers discussion, is there anything we haven't hit that you wanted to go back to? We're just kind of talking about the media, the reaction coming off of media day and kind of where Quinn is headed going into the season.
No, man, if I'm being completely honest, I'm ready to wrap up.
Now what? Ready to what? You said we were going to have,
I'm on one bar of internet connection. I haven't had lunch, didn't have breakfast. I'm supposed to be starting vacation in 36 hours, and I know I'm not even going to have a vacation. I'm going to have a staycation where all I do is work. You'll just have to forgive me if 90 minutes is about my limit today.
I understand. Here's what we're going to do. Since you're about to eat, let's just make sure we mention a little Taste on Main on the way
what Taste on Main? Deliver.
The door. Right there on Main Street in Buda. This is Travis and Tamara. We got to hang with them in Dallas.
Tamara,
they were one of
bring me some Taste on Main.
Ooh, I could do that. I bet even their stuff. Yeah, it's so good. It might be good even if I drove it to the Woodlands for you from Buda. They have some incredible stuff. Go try the great brunch that they have on Saturdays and Sundays. They've got a couple great bar areas. The outside bar is awesome. That treehouse bar area. It is a steakhouse quality place, but without the stuffy steakhouse feel. You don't have to worry about dress codes or any of that. You're in downtown Buda, for God's sakes. Just go have yourself a great Central Texas Hill Country good time. Wonderful food, incredible drinks. The desserts are awesome. They just deal with every detail perfectly. If you're going for that brunch, try the beignets. If you're into that thing, and maybe you've been to New
making
Orleans,
me hungry, Chad.
I know. I'm gonna try to make Catch as hungry as I can. The smash burger is great. Everything they do that starts with chicken fried is awesome. And get that steak Oscar style. You will not be disappointed. Taste on Main, right there in downtown Buda. All right. So I think that's it. Let me just scan the chats, Catch. Make sure we didn't get a late breaking super chat. No, we're good. We are good. Jefferson is reminding everybody to go to Specs, and Tracy is reminding everybody that Catch is hangry. Yes, I think both of those things are true. Both of those things are true. Thanks, everybody, for liking and subscribing and getting your notifications. We'll be back tomorrow. Catch, like he said, is going to be taking some time off. So tomorrow will be his last full show for a little while, so he will be leaning. There will be some senior skip day to Mr. Ketchum tomorrow. You're going to want to be here for that one. Until tomorrow at noon.